We are live, baby. Okay. Talking.
It was his tiny hotel room. He kept his distance. Like, if I'm on the bed, the dude's in the corner. Like, so it wasn't when he wanted a wife. It was when he was ready to be a husband.
100%. You want a godly man? Quick way to figure out if he's the one or not.
Am I being the godly woman that a godly man wants to make his wife? But I have to get into being her first before God is going to give me that blessing.
I think she liked me around that time, but go ahead.
Deep down, you like me too.
Maybe.
Dramatic. So funny that we had that conversation, because then fast forward 3 weeks and we're dating. If your man don't pray about you before he started dating you. What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Sarah. This is my man, Kingston. Let's remember to introduce yourself.
Oh, Kingston, Davis, yeah.
So today we decided to do a quick little story time about our relationship. We just recently started dating officially a couple months ago, and we just kind of wanted to sit here and do like an informal chat story time, kind of just share how our relationship started, how we met, and now how we're at the place we're at in our relationship. Kind of explaining how we keep God at the center of our relationship and how different boundaries and intentional things we did in our friendship led to such a fruitful relationship that we're sitting in now. We honestly get asked this a good amount on social media, so I figured it was best to just sit down and kind of just chat it out, have a story time. So yeah, anything else you want to add before we begin?
No.
Okay, so where should we start?
Let's start at the beginning.
Okay, so let's just start at kind of how we met and how our friendship formed. So back in 2022, is that when your combine was?
2022.
Yeah, last year. Last
January 2022.
That's weird. I guess this January will be 2 years. Yeah, it was in 2021, that's when I started, yeah. So back in the beginning of 2022, I was working at a performance center as a trainer, and he was coming to that performance center to do combine prep training. I was working on the combine program. And so in that program, we were all together like, I don't know, every day for like 8 weeks straight. And so anyway, we all got really close and cool and friendly. That's kind of how we met. And then after the program ended, we kind of stayed friends. Like, we weren't as close for a little bit. But he was still always popping in the gym. I was working in there every day, and it got to a point where then we started becoming cooler because we'd see each other in the gym every day, and we would just chop it up more. And I feel like you can just add whatever you want.
I know, I'm just letting you.
We kind of just had like a lot of things in common, and I feel like we just chatted about things well, and like we could bounce ideas off of each other. We were both into very similar things. We both obviously very into fitness, professional football, and I do fitness for a living, you know, and we both are entrepreneurial minded, ambitious, and so we're able to just have a lot of good conversations around that in the beginning, and we kind of just started to form this really good, solid friendship. But we were very intentional with our friendship, especially as we started getting closer. We only ever saw each other like in public settings. We were never just at each other's apartments, just like kicking it with each other. That wasn't like it was never a spoken rule, you know? It wasn't ever like we can't go to each other's apartments. But I think we both just understood the intentionality and the boundaries we just needed to have in our friendship, period, so that we were maintaining that mutual level of respect for each other and not crossing any boundaries incorrectly. And so the only place we see each other would be like if we were working out, if we were at his office space, like with his sister, or just us two, like still at a public place doing work together. We would go for runs, we would go grab food, but like he was never at my apartment, I was never at his place, nothing. So for starters, like in the beginning of our friendship, I think that was a really important thing that we did. We weren't even doing that because, I don't know, we weren't doing it because we, you know, thought we would like each other. No,
it really was just like, of course we would see each other at the gym all the time.
Yeah.
And like I said, we would have like good conversation, or we'd be like debating about something with your clients. And
yeah, he would literally just sit there and chop it up with my clients and me. Like, this man loves to debate.
I do.
So he would just sit there, not like in a, you know, pick and fights way, but he would just sit there and like talk about things and debate with people and just have good, deep conversations, like while my clients were working out. So like him and I got closer, and he got cool with all my clients. So he would just kind of be around when I was training because he was already in the gym.
Yep. And I think the first time we saw each other outside the gym was when I came to get help for my website.
Yeah, that was the first time it was ever just one-on-one outside the gym.
Yeah.
It was never just you and I one-on-one. We didn't text, you know, we didn't have like a one-on-one relationship outside of doing like the combine work.
One-on-one, I went over to her apartment, asked for help, and we went to her like little, what was that little?
Like a public, like, what's it called? Amenity in my apartment. So he came over to my building, but he did not come to where I lived.
Yeah.
Like my actual unit, I brought him to like a public part of it, amenity, like a lounge area, so he could work there.
Lounge area, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she helped me with my website, stuff like that, and then like we remained cool. Like I would, you know, swipe up and joke about her or something like that. I would do
we
that.
had a very like fun friendship. Like we'd banter with each other and joke, but it was always just like, it was always very genuine and pure, and like there was no, I don't know what's what I'm looking for. Like
I didn't even
it was very platonic.
Her.
Yeah, it was very, very platonic. Extremely platonic. Okay. And then you started trying to get into content some. Mm-hmm. He was kind of learning how to create content, how to like build his own platforms, and so then we chopped it up more. He would come to me. I at that point had been doing different platforms, different social media. This was just last year. I already had, you know, platforms built, and so he was coming to me for advice and like learning how to edit and all these different things. And so again, then we're spending even more time around each other just because I'm teaching him something or like we're doing different work. I remember at one point you were kind of helping me build my website because he's good at that stuff. So again, every time we were around each other, it was always for the reason of like learning something new or working, and that was how our friendship was built.
Right.
Yeah. But then like another like side note at that time, you were at a good point in your faith journey. I feel like in your walk, you'd gotten to like a really good point to where you had a good community around you. You were really in the church. Like you were convicted on some new things I hadn't been convicted on. And at this point, like I wasn't as strong in my faith yet and in my walk again. Like I was brought up religiously, but I'd kind of like not stepped away intentionally, but I just hadn't been to church in a while again. I didn't focus on my relationship with God. So like the more I grew in my friendship with Kingston, the more like he pushed me. Not even like, you kind of just did it by leading by example, which is how we're supposed to. But he would just sit there and have conversations with me about God and about faith and about church and about something you learned in church or something you learned in your group or what you're now believing that you didn't used to believe. You know, his conviction on staying celibate now. Like, and this is when we were just friends, and he's just, that probably wasn't a good example because I mean, it seems like we talk about that a lot, but like, it was things that like he was openly sharing with me in like a vulnerable way as my friend to just like teach me things that I just like wanted to learn, and so like he was pushing me closer to God, to going back to church, he plugged me into like a godly community. But this is all just him being a good friend and honestly like a good Christian and just like leading me back to where was going to be good for me. And so we kind of grew, our friendship started growing in multiple ways because we did work stuff, we did entrepreneurial stuff, but then we started being plugged in the same community and the same church, and so we just what's the word I'm looking for? We aligned in a lot of different areas, right?
Yeah, I remember, I think the first time I asked you, I was like, hey, do you like go to church or something like that? And you were like, I haven't been in a while, but I was like raised Catholic. And then I remember I was like, oh, you should like try Social Dallas. And you were training Shelby, I think.
Because she went there.
Yeah, Shelby was like, oh, I go to Social Dallas.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, I'd stayed around for like a long time. We were just like talking about God and stuff like that. And I think, did I tell you to come? I think.
No, I went with Shelby first.
You went with Shelby first.
I mean, you encouraged me to go, like you would like it, but Shelby actually invited me to go with her. I went
with y'all at one point.
You went with me, but that wasn't my first time going.
Okay.
My first time going was just with Shelby. You know, going to a new church is intimidating. Like, it was intimidating to me. Shelby invited me. I went with her. But you were definitely like, not one, like the reason I wanted to go, but hearing you like it and Shelby like it and other people, I was like, okay, you know what? Let me go try this place out. But you were definitely someone who like planted that seed. You know, I feel like we got off topic though.
No, not off topic. I mean, like, it was just another point of how like we grew in that area, and then. I mean, at one point, come to the office all the time.
Yeah.
And you know, I would be.
Well, our schedules were very similar.
Yeah.
So like we were able to. It got to a point where like we would work out together, like And it's funny because sitting on this side of it, I understand why people thought we liked each other. But like genuinely in the moment of our friendship, before we actually started dating, like that is not how it was. We did not like each other. We were not pursuing each other. We genuinely just like enjoyed being around each other. We were cool homies. Like it was good vibes. Like we got things done together.
The thing about it is just like, you should want to surround yourself with somebody that's going to push you, like physically, mentally, spiritually. So it was like,
And like in your goals.
right. So like we have
Financially.
similar goals. We're ambitious. You know, we have all these different things. You know, I'm always bouncing ideas off you. I've been doing that since, you know, we were friends. And it's like, you know, of course everybody's like, oh, you're around Sarah all the time. You must like her and stuff like that. Honestly, if there was more people that, you know, had a similar schedule, because that's the biggest thing. Like, you know, I would train in the morning and then I would literally have, you know, all day
to work.
You know what I'm saying? So
Same.
right. So it's like I can be in the office, but I can leave anytime I want to, you know. So we had similar schedules. You know, I have some other friends that's ambitious, but they actually go to work and stuff. So you're around all the time because I like being around you because, you know what I'm saying, we're on the same wavelength, we're on the same page, the same mission. So, you know, you should want to surround yourself with people like that because you're gonna grow naturally. And I've grown a lot from just you know what I'm saying?
So cute.
In our friendship, and you know, even just like the content part, you know what I'm saying? Like if it honestly wasn't for you, I probably wouldn't be in the content.
Give me my flowers. I'm just playing. I'm just playing.
You know, and yeah, that's true. I tell you all the time. Like, if it weren't for you, I really wouldn't be in content. I didn't know. Like, I barely posted on.
I think you just
whatever.
didn't see the opportunities. You didn't see.
Yeah.
You kind of got,
I mean,
you got an inside, but you got
there.
an inside glimpse at it. You got to like really see firsthand like how my life had transformed because of it, and kind of the opportunities that God was giving me through that.
But yeah, everybody was like, "Oh yeah, like y'all are like dating." It was like, no, like.
But before that even happened, like we were kicking it a lot before you left to go to your season, and we were working out together. He was training multiple times a day, and he was just that person that like, look, if you're gonna challenge me to do something, I'm going to do it. And I don't know if you just knew that about me or like what, but he'd be like, you know, I'm working out 3 times tomorrow. Are you coming? And I'm like, I'm coming. Like, even though like I had no business doing that because he was training to go back to season. And so like it was more like he was going to do his like trampoline sessions that he does for like explosion work, and then he was like doing his like running, and then he was doing his lifting, and he was doing with our other friend Ty. And so they would just invite me, and I'm like, I never want to turn away from the fitness, like physical work, let's get it. And so like suddenly I'm like working out with them twice a day, and then in between the sessions I'd be in the office working because I needed to get work done, and I can just do my work wherever, you know. And so it just like came about naturally that we were together for like all day long before you then left for season. But then when he left for season, he was gone March through the end of June. And what's funny is I remember when he left, like we'd become pretty tight friends at that point, but like he was about to leave, and we didn't like have a friendship or relationship where we talked through the phone. We didn't text, we didn't like call each other.
That's actually really funny.
We didn't.
Never really like texted.
So like our friendship was purely based off like a text that's like, hey, come to the office, let's work, and I'd be like, bet. Or he'd be like, hey, we're hitting, you know, the gym tomorrow, I'd be like, bet. And that would literally be the whole text or whatever.
So funny. I truly like viewed her like a homie. Like we were actually true homies.
No, yeah, and like literally like up until we started dating, the only way we ever physically touched each other was like, or even that, just we would just peace at each other. That's it.
For sure.
Like we didn't cross those boundaries as a girl and guy. Like we didn't side hug, we didn't nothing. So anyway, side note. But so then when his season came around, he left for months. I remember thinking to myself like, oh, I wonder if we're still gonna stay tight homies. But like, I didn't ponder it deeply because like we were tight, but I wasn't like, you know, crying because you were leaving. You were just my friend. Like, but then what's crazy is looking back, it's just so intentional the way that God truly works everything. And there are so many different ways I could sit here and explain the different ways that God did so many things intentionally, correctly for us to end up where we are. But like, he left for all those months, and we actually got closer over the months that you were gone than we even were when you were here. Because we were FaceTiming all the time, but again, not because we liked each other, because we were talking about a million different things. We talk about the sermon, we talk about the sermon from the week. We would talk about different ideas we had for business. We would talk about different content things. We'd ask each other advice on things. Like, I would literally call him and tell him about a date I had, and he would call me and tell me about, you know, a girl, about this girl or that girl, and like we had that kind of friendship to where it was so platonic that it wasn't like we kind of liked each other, so like we wouldn't tell each other about girls and guys, you know?
Yeah.
But we were talking all the time on FaceTime when you were gone. All the time. Like, there'd be nights I'd be at my apartment, I'd just be meal prepping, cooking dinner, cleaning, doing laundry, and he'd just be on my headphones, and we'd just be chopping it up for hours straight. But it's just crazy looking back that we got closer during that time. But that was also like, it was almost like good that you were gone for those months, because it allowed me to like grow in my faith outside of your friendship. Because you know, you'd push me to go to these places, but I need to do it for myself, and I need to build my relationship with God. So like, I was back in the church, I was back going to Bible study that you pushed me to go to, and I was also able to like become really good friends with a lot of his friends, but not through you. You know, like, you were gone, and so you told me to go meet these people, and I went to these Bible studies, and I became really good friends with some of my now best friends. But if I had like just showed up at Kingston's side as Kingston's friend, I wouldn't have been their friend. I would have been like Kingston's friend who's there. You know what I mean? Like, it would have been, there's just so many different things I look back on that was very intentional of God. But anyway, we got very close during that time. Anything else you want to add? It's funny, y'all, he would literally like call me about different things about girls, and like, I'm not gonna get into the details, but like.
You don't have details, but I was during that time, it's funny, she was actually like helping me. I was pursuing somebody, and she was like giving me like advice and like giving me, oh, you should say this, or you know.
Well, and I remember I went on dates, and then I would call him and I'll tell him about it, and like he would give me his like advice from the guy's perspective, like, you know, if I was a guy, I'd be thinking that, like, you know, whatever. So like, so platonic, y'all. Like, couldn't have been more platonic.
Yeah.
Truly. And then, so when you got back from season, that was when we really started getting like the closest. And at that point, I was really good friends now with his friend group, so it was fun because he was coming back. We hadn't seen him forever, and I was now good friends with his friends, so I was already gonna go where he was, and it was just like we all were this fun circle now. But him and I mean, actually, back up. The first time I saw you since you left for season, he flew to New York, because I was in New York. He didn't come because of me, but like, kind of. So like, well, let me explain. So I was in... I just made that sound like you like were low-key coming to like see me. It wasn't like that. So I was in New York for a ladder event. For those that don't know, that's my job. I coach on ladder. We were there for a ladder live event. It was super dope. And he had been getting into drone content. And he'd literally been telling me while he'd been gone, like, how he wanted to like drone different cities and stuff. And so I had mentioned to him, oh, like, I'm gonna be in New York in the middle of July, like right when you're done with season. Like, you know, if you wanted to, you could fly out there and be in New York while I'm there, shoot content, and like when I have free time, we could kick it. He's like, bet. And so like, you're just so go with the flow. You're like, okay, cool, I'll do it. And I'm like, all right, like, but like, again, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I miss you, like, come see me, I'm in New York. Like, it wasn't like that, you know? And then to make matters even more confusing for the outside viewers, his parents came. And it was just because he was like, I'm going to New York.
I told my parents, I was like, I'm going to New York. And they was like, oh, we want to come. And then
why not?
I was like, bet.
But I remember you calling me like, so my parents are going to go. And I was like, parents are going to go? All right, bet. Like, it wasn't like, I was like, oh my gosh, like, parents, he's coming, like, he likes me.
That was my
like,
first time my parents
That was my first time meeting them, yeah.
That was my first time meeting your mom, too.
Yeah. It was kind of nice getting to meet each other's family, like, as a friend, not as the pressure of, like, in a relationship.
Yeah.
Because I already knew his sister. Like, I was mostly close to your sister at that point because of The Office. And then, anyway, that's, you know, we're getting off topic. But,
go ahead.
So, he comes to New York, and that's the first time I'd seen him since literally, like, March. And we literally just, like, kicked it. Like, we explored the city when I had free time, and he got his drone shots, and, like, I like to tell a story, even, like, I'm gonna let you speak on it, but, like, when I tell y'all, this man was so intentional about the boundaries he set within our friendship. We both knew we were getting closer, and we both knew that, like, from the outside looking in, everyone assumed that we liked each other, but we both knew what was up. We both knew we were just homies, and he did a really good job as a guy being extremely intentional with his boundaries, with me being the girl and him being the guy. Like, he didn't do a single thing that made me even question if he liked me. Like, I used to joke with him after we then started dating that I thought he just thought I was ugly, or like I just wasn't his type, or like, because he just treated me like a homie. There was never a moment that, like, because most of my guy friends in the past, like, or with girls and guys period, like, once you get closer as friends, people usually kind of border that boundary really hard. They flirt a little bit, or like they comment, oh, you look nice, or your hair looks good, or your outfit looks good, you know. Never once. And it wasn't that he just was being mean to me. He just like he was making sure everything he did was very intentional to make it known to me he and I were just friends, and I never questioned it, and I don't think you ever questioned it from my side. Mm-hmm. You know, like, we were both very intentional. And even like in New York, he came up to my hotel room because we had to grab something. We're up there like getting, I don't remember what we were getting. And he made sure, even like, it was his tiny hotel room, he kept his distance. Like, he didn't sit on the bed next to me. He didn't like, if I'm on the bed, the dude's in the corner. Like, but very, very intentional. It's a testament to who he is and his character, and like how he was just making sure to treat me as a friend and as a woman. And I also like got to see so many sides of his character as his friend outside of the lens of being in an intimate relationship with him, or just a relationship period. And so like I knew his character and I knew his heart, and I already trusted him without being in that relationship setting. But we learned all these things through being friends and through showing we have this level of intentionality, this level of self-control, and these level of boundaries that we set with people who aren't our significant others. But then like on that trip, of course, everyone who then like finds out, not that it's like some drama, but people who of our friends or family who were like realizing that I was in New York and he was there with me are then starting to assume, oh, they like each other. And we're like, no. And we understand, like I remember telling people, I get why you think that. I totally get it. Him and I are really close. We talk all the time. His parents are here on the trip where I am. My mom's here. We're going to dinner together. Like, it looks like we like each other, but we didn't. We didn't talk to each other like we like each other. We didn't act like it. Like, we didn't text like it. We didn't face, like, it wasn't like that. But I think now is a good time for you to kind of talk, maybe like to any of the men that are listening, or to the girls who are trying to find that good, that looks uncomfortable.
No, I like it. It's like stretching my hip out.
Okay, that good, who are trying to find a good godly man who's going to pursue them properly, like on the level of intentionality that you stood firm on in our friendship, and kind of your reasoning behind it, all that.
Okay, well, first off, like when we were just friends, if you have friends that are the opposite sex, like you have to be super intentional with your boundaries, right? So it's like, at the time, I didn't want it to be weird if I went and like dated somebody or anything like that. Like she was a good friend, so it was like. Because
if we had messed that boundary up, then like moving forward, our significant others wouldn't have trusted us to have.
Exactly. It's like once you cross that line, you can't.
Technical difficulty. We are back.
We're back. What's another episode of?
You were saying once you cross the line, there's no going back.
Yeah. Once you cross the line, there's no going back to that. It's hard to. Yeah, it's hard to. So I just wanted to make sure that she knew that this is not what it was. Like it was like strictly on a friendship level.
Well, you also, I don't want to speak for you, but just to remind you, you also always spoke to me about how intentional that you would be when you wanted to pursue somebody. So speak on that.
Exactly. So at that point, like I was like, okay, this is what it's gonna look like when I pursue somebody. Like I knew in my head that I wanted to pursue somebody like with intentionality and the right way.
With respect.
With respect.
With kindness, with love.
All
like,
these
not
different
just like,
things.
oh, I like you, let's.
Exactly. And
like you wanted to court somebody. You wanted to,
Exactly. I wanted to court somebody, and I wanted to do the relationship the right way. You know what I'm saying?
And I knew that about you. So I also knew that like.
I expressed these things to her as a friend.
Not like to me, but just saying, like speaking, just if we would speak on that, about how you pursue other girls. So I just knew his heart and his character, and I knew that if he did like me, he would pursue me the right way, so I didn't have to get confused.
For sure.
There was no getting confused.
For sure.
There's no wondering, I just knew.
And speaking on that, like how we used to have like conversations about like relationships that we would be in and stuff like that, and how we were gonna do things. And me, particular, I was like, you know, I don't want to have sex till marriage. You know, all these different things. I want to do it like God's way, because I've tried it my way. You know.
We both tried it our way.
And
it didn't work out well.
It didn't work out, obviously. You know what I'm saying? I'm right here. You know, obviously it didn't work out. So it comes to a point, and this is a little bit off topic, but this is very important to say. It comes to a point where you're doing things on your own, you know.
You mean your own way? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing things
you're doing whatever you want.
Your own way, you know, and it just doesn't work. Obviously, you know what I'm saying? God's way is always the best way. And sometimes you have to come to that, you know, the hard way. You know, things have to fail, and you have to be put, you know, back against the wall or whatever. But I knew, I was like, my next relationship, you know, when I pursue, it's gonna be this way, it's gonna be that way. You know, we're not gonna have sex in marriage.
And you also made sure that like if you were going to pursue, it was for the intent of marriage.
Right.
It was when you were ready to be a husband too.
100%.
So it wasn't when he wanted a wife, it was when he was ready to be a husband.
100%. That I took a time of isolation where I really like worked on my relationship with God, and I dove deeper, and that was a very important time for me, because if I didn't like do the work myself, then I couldn't be ready for someone else, and I knew that. And just knowing that is a big part, because you can't really grow unless you self-analyze. You got to figure out.
Well, in order to have God at the center of your relationship, you both must individually have relationship with God yourself. Correct. So it was very important that like I was taking the time in my single season and isolation season to just get closer to God and have a good firm relationship with Him, just with me, not because of Kingston, and not not because of the man that I wanted to date. And same for him. He needed to be that strong, Christ-centered man who was able to lead his wife properly. And he had to build that relationship in like the single season, in isolation.
And let me say, the single season, if a man is watching this, or a woman, it doesn't really matter. I made sure I wasn't like even entertaining people like that, like at all. I remember texting Mike for like a week or 2 weeks, whatever, but like for a long time, like it was just me. My phone was like my parents and like my homies. My phone was like that all day. I wasn't texting, I wasn't entertaining anybody, because I was at that point in life where it was like, this is for real. Like the next girl that I entertain, like this is gonna be for real. Like I'm gonna make her my wife, or I'm just not gonna waste my time. It's just, I've been in seasons where I would be texting 5, 7, 10 different, women or whatever. And it was like, for what? Like, just cause you're bored, you know what I'm saying? That's mostly why a lot of guys text a lot of girls now, because they're bored.
I was say, it's cool. We talk about now how like looking back, because our relationship formed as a really good friendship first, within like boundaries of a friendship, we shared a lot of things about each other, like different stories from our lives and like who we used to be to who we are now. And like I learned a lot about him, like in just from the lens of a friend. So he like would just kind of share things with me just to chop it up, and like just talk about how he used to be versus how he is now, or like how he pursues women now versus how he used to be. Like he was very honest with me. Like I learned a lot of things. So now being in a relationship with him, I completely trust who he is now and also know where he's been. So there's no level of like frustration if we talk about each other's past. And there's no level of like jealousy or shame or guilt or like anger or what other things come up sometimes. Like there's no toxicity, because we got to learn a lot of these things about each other in that friendship season.
I don't know if I was telling my homeboys, I was like, Sarah knows like so much about, like genuinely like so much about me. I don't know if I would have told you certain things if I would have like, not saying I'm not like to hide it. No,
but just because you wouldn't have thought to talk about it or bring it up, or it might have been kind of strange, like for sure.
If I would just like pursued her, I'm like, I don't think I should tell you that. Yeah. But I was telling her stuff just as a homie, so like I was just letting her. And I wasn't telling her like either to brag. It was really just like, sometimes like I would tell her how like dudes were and things that she should avoid, because I was that dude.
And then you would tell the story.
And I would tell the story. Yeah. And it would be mostly like help her and like, ciphering through like the men that's like trying to hit her up and like, oh, let's go on a date. Like I would give her advice, or she was like, oh, he said this. I'm like,
right.
That's a red flag. That's a red flag. I've been there. You know what I'm saying? I used to do stuff like that. Right. So that was pretty cool.
Like I remember thinking like how intentional it was of God for us to be friends first, because there were so many things that I got to learn just being within your proximity, in so many ways that like, not that you helped to heal me, but learning different things just from like watching your life, or like listening to how you used to be and how you are now. It helped me to set firmer boundaries, and like how men needed to pursue me, like how the boundaries I needed to set for myself, and like the way in which I needed to kind of act. And if I wanted a godly man, I needed to be a godly woman, and like so many different things that I learned and was able to heal through. It came from
real quick.
Yeah.
You said if you wanted a godly man, you got to be a godly woman. That is very important, because a lot of women, I'm sure majority of women is going to be watching this, You say you want a godly man, you say you want a good man, and men of integrity and all these different things. Please understand that you got to do the work too. You got to do the work on yourself too.
Yeah.
Because you would mess that up. Like if you.
And that's not an attack. That's like him encouraging you to be reflective, because
yes.
Once you hear that, the idea is like, let me actually sit here, like, let me work on my relationship with God. Let me figure out, like, am I being the godly woman that a godly man wants to make his wife? Like, am I actually truly being that? And if I'm not, let me become her, because once I become her, God is going to give me that godly man who wants to be my husband and treat me properly. But I have to get into being her first before God is going to give me that blessing.
Self-analyze. You can't truly grow until you actually look at yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, maybe I am a little toxic, or, maybe I do need to work on that. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I do have a problem with communicating. I need to work on these things. And this is literally some of the stuff that I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, I'm not good at communicating. You know what I'm saying? I've gotten a lot better. I'm still...
We're working on it. No, I'm just playing. He's better.
I've gotten a lot better, for sure. But like I knew, and I was like, okay, I definitely need to change that. I need to change that. I need to change that. And I did the work. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I was able to, come to you and we have a healthy relationship. If I didn't do the work myself and I was just, putting Band-Aids on the problems internally that I had, at some point it would have came out and you'd be like, this is not going to work out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if you want somebody, this goes both ways. You really have to do the work yourself and be that healthy person that you want from, your partner first, and then you'll get somebody like that. But go ahead.
And I definitely think that you're in a season now where you know how to love me properly, and you know how to cherish me properly, you know how to respect me properly, because you took that time to go close to God, and you took that time to get to know God's heart. And like the Bible says, to love your wife like Christ loved the church. But you don't know how Christ loved the church until you get to know Christ, and until you are truly like trying to live like him. And that's when you're going to be that godly man who's able to love his, like, no, not his wife, but like his girlfriend and then into wife correctly. And just hearing of how you used to be and now getting to experience how you are now, it's so night and day. But you've come through that growth, and you now are able to love me properly the way God intended for me to be loved and for you to love me, because you did that work and you grew close to God and you got to know God's heart. And same for me, I started understanding, why am I accepting this stuff from these guys? Why am I being okay with this? Why am I, not demanding something of them, but why am I not setting this certain value? Like, God loves me this much. God has a man for me who is going to love me properly. So why am I even wasting my time meeting that person with these other dudes that I know aren't that for me? So yeah. So anyway, that was kind of a lot. But now fast forward to after New York, and we're getting way, way, way closer. Let's just make a long story short. Actually, well, no, this is funny though. There was a point right before we started dating, a few weeks before, my friends and I had gone out, and like, I had called him that night to get a ride. We Uber was weird, and like we didn't have our car, and he's like one of my close friends, but all of the girls' close friends. We all know him. Like he's in our friend group, and it's like midnight and it's later, and so to make a long story short, that was like the first time I think you felt like, oh wait, okay, like she might have does she like me? Does she have feelings for me? And like I was really genuinely just calling him because I trust him, and it was kind of late, and like he's our good guy friend, but like that was the first time in our friendship that we had a talk of like, he had called me and he was like, look, Sarah, like Seraphic. That's what he used to call me, Seraphic. Very platonic. Wow. Friend zone much.
We're gonna have to have this conversation.
Like,
that's exactly what I said.
He said we're gonna have to have this conversation. Like, we're just friends. And I was like, whoa, like 100%. Like, I'm on the same page as you. I'm so sorry that like anything made you question that. Thanks for addressing this. Thanks for like having the boldness to have this conversation. At that time, all of our friends like were just ready to like not pressure us, like, but like they were all rooting for us to date. Like they were like, we know you like each other, you always spend time together, like, just date, we all want you to date. And we were like, we don't like each other like that, we're not gonna force it, like. And so it was just this whole thing where like, then he's thinking I might like him, and I'm thinking like, why is everyone saying this?
I think she liked me around that time, but it's okay, go ahead.
Anyway,
deep down I think she liked me, go ahead.
Deep down you like me too.
Maybe.
Dramatic. Yeah, I did. No. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that because, again, I think that was another intentional thing you did. Like, it's not an easy conversation to have, but you kind of were calling me out like, hey, I need to make sure, like, we're good and we're on the same page and you don't think that I like you and, like, you don't like me. And if you do, let's talk about it and, like, what do we need to change, blah, blah, blah.
DeMarcus had told me, shout out to my boy DeMarcus, man. That man's wise. I talked to him that day and I was like, man, you know, he was like, you gotta talk to her. Mm-hmm. I was like, I do not want to have that conversation. Mm-hmm. And he was like, it's the right thing to do.
But it's so funny. It's so funny that we had that conversation because then fast forward 3 weeks and we're dating.
Yeah.
Literally almost to the day. Like 3 weeks and we're dating. But like in those 3 weeks, like we had the conversation, we were both confirmed that we're on the same page, but then we just grew closer and closer and closer. And I'll let you speak on this, but to then move to the finish line when we started dating, like we just finally had a day where like, or a couple days where we were hanging out all the time and like just getting really close. And that was in our friendship where he actually started coming to my apartment. It's because I had just moved. Mm-hmm. And so he was just helping me. Like he was helping me build things or unpack, but he got comfortable in my space quickly, which was honestly why we had maintained that boundary in the beginning, but it was fine. And then it just culminated to, we both just kind of had a moment where we figured out we liked each other and he ended up kissing me and that was the first time we ever crossed that line. But
before I kissed her, I touched her calf. That was the first time I have ever touched her. And
okay,
it was like...
That's dramatic. Like we had like dapped it up. We had like, I think we side hugged one time.
Huh?
I think we'd side hug one time.
Okay.
But yeah,
still.
It's honestly really comical because like we were chilling on the couch watching something, which we never did as friends, ever.
Literally never did.
I don't remember why you did either. I don't know what made you stay. He liked me, that's why. We're just on the couch like watching a movie. There's honestly space between us. But then like, I was either like, I think I was what was I, massaging your back or something? You know, something was sore. There was some reason that our bodies were then closer at that moment. And we're laying there and he like just puts his hand on my calf. And I'm sitting there like, is he touching me? Like, he don't do this. My calf. Like, it's not like, it's just funny because you're thinking like he'd be like, oh, you know, no, like, he did that. And I was like, what? And you know, in his brain, he's like, I'm touching your calf right now. But.
That's so funny.
Yeah. But then like, so you end up kissing me. But then after we had kissed, and that was the first time we ever kissed, and like we were like.
Let me explain the story, how we even led up to that.
Well, that's what I was about to say.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I was about to introduce how you then told me that night, like, you're like, okay, we clearly both are feeling each other. Like, obviously, like, we've been really good friends, and this is a boundary, like, we're now stepping over, and, like, this is a new thing. So, like, he started explaining to me, which I'll let you get into, how he got to that point of feeling good, of, like, actually, like, kissing me and kind of, like, moving out of just being friends and the prayer and just get into that, kind of what you told me.
So,
because girls, let me intro this by saying, if your man don't pray about you before he starts dating you. Anyway, go.
Like I said before, I was like pursuing somebody before then, and I thought that, you know, like, okay, like this is the person that like I was gonna be with, whatever. And literally everybody was like, Sarah, like, you know, I had, oh my God.
Your sister used to call you, Ty used to call you.
I remember.
My family's in my ear, like, date Kingston, and I'm like.
I remember I'm in Ohio, and my sister calls me, and I answer the phone, and she's like, hold on, I'm putting you on three-way. First thing she said, hold on, I'm putting you on three-way. And Ty's on the phone, and he's like, bruh. He was like, I just need you to date Sarah Fit, man. And I'm like, y'all called me for this? like,
shout out to Kristen and Ty, they ride for me.
I'm like, what? But like, everybody, literally, like our friend group, my sister,
my family,
you know,
your family,
like,
your parents were like, oh, we thought y'all already dating.
My Sarah, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, we're not like that. So as we were like getting closer, you know, I was like, I still was thinking about another girl, and I remember just like, what if like this is God, like, you know, wanted me to be with Sarah, and I had to take it to the Lord. Like, I literally had to sit down and I had to pray, and I was like, Lord, if this is like who you want me to be with, then I'm gonna need you to do something. You know, I'm gonna need you to put that in my heart, because I don't think about her. Yeah, I didn't feel the way about you. So it was like, you know, if this is what you want, like, you're gonna have to do that. Like, I'm not gonna move. I'm not gonna do nothing. It's gonna stay the same until you put her in my heart. And lo and behold, as I start praying that, and I didn't pray just one time, like I prayed it,
it was like for weeks.
Yeah, I prayed it for a good amount. And lo and behold, as we start hanging out more and more and more.
You start liking me.
Yeah.
Keep going.
What she said. And I was like, okay, like, I was like, God, are you sure? Because this is a big deal. Like,
True, because we were really good friends and we were very intertwined. There was too much. We couldn't mess with it.
So I was like, if I'm doing this, I have to do it all the way.
For real,
and I didn't want to do it any other way than that. So it was like, I remember, after I prayed, I was like, okay, like, I think, this might be the day. I kissed her or whatever, and I remember just like, my heart was beating so fast. And yeah, it was like, it wasn't like nervousness, but it was just like,
wow. We were really close friends.
Yeah,
like everything was about to change for real.
Life just changed. I was like, we just crossed that line. And there's no going back. And I was like, I've been single for so long too. Mm-hmm. So it was like,
it's kind of scary to enter that new season.
Right. It was super scary. That's why I was like,
and we were jumping into a new season just suddenly.
It wasn't no like, let's get to know each other. And
we knew each other.
Go, right.
It's so funny because we were sitting there like, what do we do now? Because we can't pursue it can't go on a first date. I know everything about you, and your family, and there's no getting to know you. Like we fast forwarded through that. But I remember telling you, I still want to be courted. I still want to be, and he was very good and intentional about that. He still did things to court me, even though there's not getting to know me. We already know we like each other. But he would still do things to court me, take me on a date, bring me flowers, or just things showed me that he really wanted to pursue me, right? Even though he couldn't help that we knew each other really well already. This is so funny. So Kingston would always tell people this was a known thing. If he was talking to people about relationships or whatever, my clients, me, friends, he had 3 things he wanted in a woman or in his wife. 3 things.
I did.
Same thing. He'd always say God-fearing, ambitious, and takes care of her health. But he would always say likes fitness and works out. That's how he would say it. So he would say God-fearing, ambitious, into fitness, works out. Okay. And I'd heard this spiel 1,000,001 times. I knew this. I recited it myself. So then fast forward, it's when he's back from season, and it's kind of amidst when people are kind of thinking we like each other and we don't. So we're kind of being aware of that. And we're sitting at a restaurant with some of our friends.
Taking a shake.
We went to play volleyball. We went to play volleyball with our friends. We're sitting at a restaurant, and we got on the topic of relationships, of husbands, wives, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever. And Kingston was like, yeah, when it comes to my wife, there are just 3 things I'm looking for. And this man says, God-fearing, ambitious, and takes care of herself. And I sat there that is the first time he's ever phrased it that way. And it's because he knew if he said God-fearing, ambitious, and into fitness, everyone would have been duh, Sarah, hello, And so he didn't want to make it like that. So he literally changed it because he knew our friends would do that. And I was sitting there and Riley, my friend, calls me after. She's like, bro, he was literally talking about you. I'm like, I know. And let me tell you something funny. And I tell her that he literally changed the last one from fitness to takes care of herself. And she's like, what's that even mean, takes care of herself? I'm like, exactly. What does that even mean?
Take care of yourself.
No, but you told me later in hindsight that you literally changed it so people wouldn't be like, Sarah?
Yeah, Riley would be like, well, Sarah's right here.
Right.
That's literally probably what she would have said.
But, what else should we say before we wrap it up? Anything else we're gonna share?
Now living in this relationship.
This season.
It's super healthy.
There's so much fruitfulness. There's so much peace. I've never been in a relationship with this much peace. I haven't been in a lot of relationships, period. I'm very much on my own type of girl until the right one comes along. And the level of peace that we both have, the level of trust we have for each other, I've never known this kind of peace within a relationship and kind of trust. And
it's because that we're doing it God's principles.
Yeah.
His way. We have a relationship with God on our own, and we're pursuing that, and we bring that. God has to be at the center of a relationship. They say a marriage takes 3 people.
Oh. Yeah.
You and I and God.
What's this?
Oh, you messed up our
I didn't know that's what you were doing. I thought you were high-fiving me.
Oh.
Sorry.
I see. So yeah, like doing our relationship on God's principle, man, it brings so much like peace and joy.
It's genuinely crazy.
It's genuinely
like
crazy.
It shouldn't be, because that's what people say. Like it brings peace. It's like God intended it that way for a reason.
For a reason.
And like living in that celibacy, living in that respect for each other, like we both know how much we each are convicted on it, and so
let's emphasize that real quick.
It's easy to respect it.
Not having sex before marriage, and I know a lot of people, sorry, I know a lot of people, it's like, I don't know if I can do that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I get it, we get it, but you can do it.
You have to want it for yourself and your relationship with God outside of anything else.
Right. Exactly.
If I was doing it because Kingston wanted me to, or Kingston was doing it because he knew that's how I felt, it would not work.
Right.
It wouldn't work. We have to both feel very convicted on it, just for our own relationship with God, so that we both respect it. And that way we both know how convicted we both are, so we don't like push each other the wrong way. Like we just both stand in it. We're not even gonna try the wrong thing or something, because we both feel the same way. Like,
one side note for women out there, quick way to figure out if you want a godly man, quick way to figure out if he's the one or not. Ask him, what do you think about sex before marriage? And he gives you any other answer than, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm not having sex before marriage, or it's like, oh, I do it for you, or whatever.
If you had asked Kingston that when we were just friends, he would not only tell you, like, I'm waiting, he would then sit there and give you his why, his scripture, his, like, everything. Like, there was no...
I would tell you why. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was...
It wasn't like you weren't like, I should do it God's way, but I don't know. Like, you were like, no.
Yeah, it's literally like, no, this is why, I want my marriage to be blessed, like all these different things. So if you're out there and you're single and you're trying to date and you're trying to find a man of God, you can ask him that simple question. I promise you it will weed out a lot of people. Like the type of bond and relationship that we're able to build outside of sex. Sex is, it's a spiritual thing. It's binding, like...
Blinding too. It's
blinding, yes, for sure. You could literally... I can't tell you, like, just from my own personal experience, I've been in relationships that I wasn't supposed to be in just because we were having sex. It is how it is. A lot of people,
stay in relationships because you've now had sex with them, and
it's like, it's hard. It's you're connected to this person, mentally, physically, spiritually. So it's like, you're not supposed to be in a relationship, but you're in it because the sex is good, or you can't really get away from this person. You know what I'm saying? You keep coming back to them somehow, because of that sex and the tension in that. But the relationship that we're able to build without that, like, just getting to like genuinely love you and like know you and like all these different things without that aspect, that's a beautiful thing.
It's a whole different level of love, respect.
Exactly.
It's a whole other level of getting to see each other's intentionality and self-control and trust that you have for each other. So like, if I can watch him be intentional within our relationship where he's at my apartment all the time with me and he's not doing anything he shouldn't be, I have nothing but all the trust in the world for him around other women. I don't get jealous, I don't get insecure, because I've seen how he'll act around his girlfriend, like how self-controlled that you can be, So, and I think, same for me. And so it builds this whole new level of trust for each other. I've probably been in relationships where like when you're not around that person, you're sitting around thinking, what are they doing? Why haven't I heard from them? What are they doing right now? Like, who are they around? I've literally never once done that except for one time when I was like scared that you weren't okay because I hadn't heard from you and I thought I would. Like, and it was not because I was scared that like he was doing something wrong or it was wrong people or he was with a girl. I was like, this is weird. I thought I'd hear from him. Is he okay? Like, is his safety good? Other than that, I've never had that moment with you. I've literally, when I'm not around him, I think about him as in like I miss you and stuff, but like I'm not worried. I don't have anxiety. I don't have like, well, I better hear from him. It's been an hour. Like, who's he around? Where's he with? It could go hours. Remember, there was one day that I was throwing him a surprise party for his birthday. And we spend like a good amount of time together, right? But this day, like I had needed him to be away from me because I needed to go do a lot of things. I needed to set up the party. I needed to get all the gifts, get everything. And so he thankfully went to his office to work that day. And his sister, I had like communicated with her like, hey, I need you to like basically keep him occupied, ask him to do things until we're then gonna later have this like fake thing that we're gonna go do, right? But anyway, like we didn't speak all day long, really.
Nope.
We didn't text, we didn't talk. I mean, it wasn't because, we were both just busy. We were both just doing things. Mm-hmm. And he told me later, like, Creston's like, have you talked to Sarah today? And he's like, no,
I haven't.
Anyway. And I'm sitting there like,
in fact, I haven't
I'm
actually.
there,
I just
right.
went back to work.
And then like on the phone, we talked on the phone like later that night before I was about to see you, and it was like we weren't like, well, what have you been doing today? Who have you been around? Like I just knew he's doing his business or he's doing his work or whatever, and he knows well whatever she's doing, she's not doing anything wrong. She's getting work done. She's working out. There are only a few things that we really do. So like we have like this just peace and this love and this trust and this respect, and like it's just so good. It's so good. High fives. Anyway, there are things we talked about in this video that you would like us to elaborate more on, or you want a second video, you want a part 2. We obviously just use this as a fun story time, like chatting with y'all. But we're happy to like make more dedicated content to different things we talked about, go more in depth on things, kind of give our own personal experiences, advice, all that. You know, we're figuring out as we go too, but we're obviously doing it in a way that we're both very content with because we're keeping God in the middle.
And we are launching our podcast.
We are.
Restricted by Vision podcast. And we are launching it on Patreon. So we'll get an episode
share more
up.
on that.
We'll share more on that. We'll put the
We'll
link
take the
up
time
in
on Patreon
description
in our
on the screen.
podcast to like actually dive deep into some of these topics and use that time to like, you know, but we'll do YouTube too.
We'll get into the word, you know, we'll talk about a lot of different things on our podcast. Right. Also, so Prettier, our brand, Raina. It's a good jacket. We got more stuff coming.
It has Proverbs 31:30 on the sleeve, so it's a reminder to be a Proverbs 31:30 woman. Okay, well, thanks for being here. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. If there's anything else you would like us to talk on, like I said, leave it in the comments below. DM either of us on Instagram if you want to chop it up more about stuff. We're always happy to have those kind of conversations.
I have a Discord if you're a man and you want to just like come in the Discord, like chop it up. I'm more active in the Discord. Yeah, you can head to my Instagram, just any of my social pages and go to my link.
Thanks for being here.
All right, y'all. Peace.
The aggression.